Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts basketball podcast, where we discuss all the news in the world of basketball. As always, my name is Ben Brown. Here on a Friday, we are leading you into the weekend, and it is no bigger weekend in basketball. Seriously, NCAA tournament, we had the first day of the first official day of the tournament yesterday. Only two upsets, only Middle Tennessee State and Xavier, 12 and 11. So only two upsets. So what does that mean for today? We'll probably see like 10 of them, honestly. But nevertheless, exciting as always. Good storyline. Some games coming down to the wire. We're going to talk about every game that happened yesterday, give you some score lines, look at who is going to be playing who on Saturday, and we'll also preview today's matchups. The second day, Friday, of course, we're looking at other games to get into the round of 32. We'll talk some NBA games from last night. Russell Westbrook again with the triple-double. Kevin Love returned to the Cleveland Cavaliers lineup last night. Talk about how he did in limited action. We have a college coach that's out of a job. Steve Kerr commenting on the very outgoing LeVar Ball and Chicago Bulls forward Dwyane Wade being shut down for the rest of the year. So we'll talk about all this stuff here on the GSMC basketball podcast today. We're starting off, of course, have to start off with the NCAA tournament. I want to announce, first of all, today is the start of the women's tournament. So we'll talk about that as well. Talk about that on Monday, maybe if there's any surprises as we get closer to the Final Four. Obviously, UConn being the favorite. All the other number one seeds in the tournament, UConn beat by exactly 11. So they have a nice little edge and definitely are the favorite to win it again this year. But you never know. It is a tournament. It is a one-game elimination. You have to be on your game every single night out. So one team who was definitely not on their game in the first half was Villanova yesterday, playing Mount St. Mary's, number 16 seed, who won the play-in game from Tuesday. As I said, Villanova only up one at the half. They're only up 30-29, but a big second half where they outscored the Mountaineers by 19. It gives Villanova a 76-56 victory over the Mount St. Mary's Mountaineers. Dante DiVincenzo was the top performer for Villanova. He had 23 points and 13 rebounds. Number one, Gonzaga, another team that really struggled in the first half. The number one seed out there on the West against South Dakota State. They did get it done by 20, 66-46, but they were only up by 4 at halftime. The Zags also were down from the majority of the first half against the Jackrabbits from South Dakota State, but a big second half outscored them by 16, gives them the edge. Jordan Matthews, 16 points and 5 rebounds for Gonzaga, as Gonzaga improves to 33-1 now. Number 2, Arizona, really impressive over number 15, North Dakota. They win 100-82. Raleigh Alkins, 20 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds. Arizona was in control the whole way out. The first half, they were up by 16 at halftime. Really dominant there. Number 4, West Virginia out in the West region picks up a victory over number 13, Bucknell. The Mountaineers win 86-80. Close game. It seems like, and I was watching a lot of this game. So West Virginia would kind of get a nice little 10-point edge, and then Bucknell would cut it to like 6, and then they would go up to 8, and then it would go down to 5. Bucknell were able to keep it close, but they weren't able to really just, get over the hump there and really get the lead and obviously beat the Mountaineers. Nathan Adrian had a double-double in this game for West Virginia. The big man had 12 points and 10 rebounds. Number 5, Notre Dame. This was the first game of the day here against number 12, Princeton. It went down to the wire. Notre Dame wins 60-58. Princeton had a shot at the end, though. They had a three-pointer with just a couple of seconds left. They rimmed out. Bonzie Colson for Notre Dame had 18 points and 7 rebounds, and then Spencer Weiss for Princeton had 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. This is that classic 12-5 matchup. 9 out of the last 10 years, we have had a 12 beat a number 5, and now, as I'll say in a minute, it'll be 10 out of the last 11 because Middle Tennessee State did defeat number 5 Minnesota yesterday. But so Notre Dame, Princeton had their chances. They really had a shot there at the end. They just could not get it to go. Notre Dame, it seems like everyone going into the tournament were really confident that Notre Dame were going to be able to handle Princeton. But this is what happens. I mean, These schools, these mid-majors that come in on really, really impressive winning streaks, kind of like the one we're going to mention in a minute, Vermont. These teams come in on really, really big winning streaks and are really riding high. They're playing on house money because no one expects a team like Princeton to beat Notre Dame. So they're really riding high, and that's what makes the tournament so great. But Princeton just falls short of pulling off the upset over the number 5 Fighting Irish. So Notre Dame advances on to the next round. They'll be taking on number 4 West Virginia in the round of 32 tomorrow. A winner in that game will go on to the Sweet 16. So speaking of a team with a long win streak, like I said, that was number 13 Vermont. They came into their matchup against number 4 Purdue on a 21-game winning streak. But that is, of course, snapped now because number 4 Purdue pulls off the victory 80-70. Caleb Swanigan, the Big Ten Player of the Year, another double-double for him. 16 points and 14 rebounds. Also 4 assists in the victory there. And Anthony Lamb for the Vermont had 20 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists. So Purdue advances on. And number 14, Florida Gulf Coast. They were kind of a popular pick to upset number 3, Florida State. It did not happen. Florida State wins 86-80. But Florida Gulf Coast really kept it close. Only lost by 6. Had a shot there at the end. They just, a lot like West Virginia and Bucknell were. Florida Gulf Coast were able to keep it close. It would go to like a 10-point lead, then they'd cut it to like 6, and then it would go up to 12, and then they would go down to 7. But they just could not get over the hump. Brandon Goodwin for the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles had a fantastic game, though. 28 points and 7 assists. And then, of course, Dwyane Bacon, as always, for Florida State, the guard, had 25 points and 9 rebounds. Another popular pick to upset number 5 was number 12, Nevada. They were facing number 5, Iowa State yesterday. Iowa State does pull off the victory 84-73 over Nevada. Nevada was down by 13 at the half. Really, really struggled in the first half shooting the ball. Cameron Oliver had 22.7 rebounds for Nevada in the loss. And then Monte Morris had 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. Number 13, East Tennessee State battled number 4, Florida yesterday. And Florida, behind a big second half, pull off the victory there by 15. They win 80-65. It was only a 1-point game at the half, but Florida in the second half, like I mentioned, really, really impressive there. Devin Robinson had 24.7 rebounds, and then for East Tennessee State, it's TJ Cromer. He had 19 points, 3 assists, and 2 rebounds. So number 4, Florida, advances on to the next round. They'll be taking on a team I will talk about a little later. That's number 5, Virginia. Will break them down with their victory over UNC Wilmington. Number 4, Butler battled number 13, Winthrop yesterday. This is the first game that I've gone through that I missed on. I did pick number 13, Winthrop, to pull off the upset. I really thought guys like Keon Johnson would really propel Winthrop over Butler. I did not get that right, but Butler does win 76-64. Winthrop were down big in the first half. They were down by 14 at halftime. A nice little 7-0 run to begin the second half. Cut it to 7, but then Butler ultimately pulled away there. Avery Woodson for Butler did have 18 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 assist. And then Xavier Cooks for Winthrop, the best performer from yesterday, 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists. One of the toughest games to really match up for me is the next one I'm talking about. That's number 10, VCU, against number 7, St. Mary's. Number 7, St. Mary's got the victory here, 85-77. Jock Landale, the big man, had 18 points and 13 rebounds. VCU really did not have an answer for him, especially in the first half. The VCU Rams were down by 15 at halftime. They had a nice run there in the second half to cut it close, led by Jaquan Lewis. He had 30 points. But they ultimately were not able to overcome St. Mary's. St. Mary's really, really good defensive down the stretch there, and they pull off the victory 85-77. The Gales improved to 29-4. Number 5, Virginia against number 12, UNC Wilmington. Virginia was down for a lot of the first half. They were down big at one point within double digits, but they come back and they've pull off the victory over number 12, UNC Wilmington, 76-71. London Parentes, 24 points, 3 assists, and 2 rebounds. And then Chris Flemings in the loss had 18 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 assists. So number 5, Virginia, they will be going on to match up tomorrow against number 4, Florida. That'll be a really, really good matchup here in the round of 32. I do have Virginia going through. I feel like because Virginia played in such, obviously the SEC is a big conference for Florida, but Virginia played the ACC, which was by far the best conference this year. I think given that they've played so many good, tough, battle-tested teams, I think that's what's going to lead them through and get them the victory. So I'll take Virginia going on to the Sweet 16. Number 8, Wisconsin defeated number 9 Virginia Tech yesterday, 84-74. Bronson Koenig 28 points in the victory. They will be going on to face number 1 Villanova tomorrow. Number 12, Middle Tennessee, the first upset of the day yesterday. Like I said, we only had 2 of them, but Middle Tennessee pull off the upset over number 5 Minnesota, 81-72. The Blue Raiders last year defeated number 2 Michigan State as a 15 seed. This year, as a 12 seed, they're pulling off the upset over another Big Ten school, number 5 Minnesota. So the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders will go on to face Butler tomorrow. I actually had Middle Tennessee in the Sweet 16. I, of course, had Winthrop beating Butler, so Middle Tennessee still possible to get in the Sweet 16 if they can pull off a victory over Butler tomorrow. Kind of the biggest storyline from yesterday was number 8 Northwestern against number 9 Vanderbilt. Northwestern pull off the victory 68-66. So yeah, a game that came down to the wire, and that's exactly what happened. Matthew Fisher Davis, the poor guy from Vanderbilt, I think he just needs a hug right now. So here's what happened. So Vanderbilt score with 12 seconds left to go up by 1. Matthew Fisher Davis thought that Vanderbilt was down by 1 after that score. So he intentionally fouls Northwestern player. The kid goes down and makes both free throws to give Northwestern a 1-point lead. Fisher Davis is feeling terrible. Vanderbilt come down the other way. They have a lot of time left, but they do a LaMelo Ball, a Steph Curry-esque three-pointer from about 35 feet away, which ultimately does not go. Really, really bad shot selection there. A poor play. They could have drawn up something a lot better. But nevertheless, Northwestern, for their first ever game in the NCAA tournament, advanced. They'll be facing number 1 Gonzaga tomorrow. I feel like that ought to be a great, great matchup. I think Northwestern have a good shot at beating Gonzaga, seeing as how Gonzaga really struggled yesterday against South Dakota State. And then the last game here, another upset. It's number 11 Xavier pull off the upset over number 6 Maryland, 76-65. Sean O'Mara had 18.7 rebounds for Xavier. Maryland was in my Sweet 16, so that's like my big, big loss yesterday. I lost 3 games. I lost Winthrop, I lost Maryland, and I lost to VCU over St. Mary's. So Maryland was my big one, though. I had them in Sweet 16, but Xavier pulled off the upset. And I feel like Xavier will probably win their next game as well. I'm not too big on Florida State. I did have Maryland beating them. I feel like Xavier can do it again. They are really, really good at getting into the Sweet 16. So now, when we look at what we have coming ahead of us today, another great action-packed day in the NCAA tournament. It starts in about a couple hours from now. So we have number 10 Oklahoma State taking on number 7 Michigan. I really, really am hoping Michigan can get this done because I have Michigan going really far in my tournament, have them winning a couple of games, winning the next round against Louisville, including this game against Oklahoma State. So I really am hoping Michigan can get it done today. Number 14, New Mexico State will take on number 3 Baylor. Number 9, Seton Hall against number 8 Arkansas. Number 14, Iona against number 3 Oregon. Number 2, Louisville will be playing number 15 Jacksonville State. Number 11, SMU against number 6 SMU against number 11 USC. USC, of course, the winner of the play-in game from Wednesday. Number 16 at Texas Southern taking on number 1 North Carolina. Number 11 Rhode Island against number 6 Creighton. I do have Rhode Island winning the game. That is one of my upsets for today. Number 1 Kansas will play UC Davis, who won the play-in game on Wednesday. Honestly, I think this is probably the best matchup of a neutral fan point here. It's number 7 Dayton against number 10 Wichita State. I feel like this ought to be a great, great game. Number 15 Troy will be playing number 2 Duke. Number 6, Cincinnati against number 11, Kansas State. Kansas State, of course, won the play-in game on Tuesday. Number 8, Miami will take number 9, Michigan State on. And then number 2, Kentucky will be battling number 15, Northern Kentucky. Number 7, South Carolina will take on number 10, Marquette. And number 3, UCLA out here at the Golden One Center in Sacramento will take on number 14, Kent State. All right, so that's going to conclude our first segment talking some college basketball. Of course, it's fantastic as always. But we're going to switch gears a little bit to the NBA after our break. Kevin Love returning to the Cleveland Cavaliers lineup last night. How did he fare? Russell Westbrook another triple-double, and the Warriors winning big over the Magic. We'll talk about all that and more right after the break here at the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back into the GSMC Basketball Podcast. I'm going to talk about the NBA now. Kevin Love returned to the Cavs lineup yesterday. He actually started. Talked on Wednesday about him going to return to the lineup when they come to the West Coast road trip coming up next week. But it was even sooner than that. So Kevin Love made his Cavs return last night after knee surgery about 5 weeks ago. And he only played 20 minutes, but he played pretty well. 10 points, 9 rebounds. He shot 5 of 9 from the floor. And the Cavaliers won 91-83 over the Utah Jazz. LeBron James, 33 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. Kyrie had 21 points as well. J.R. Smith off the bench had 12 points and 6 rebounds. So I was kind of surprised when I saw that he was starting. I thought that was maybe not the best decision because I felt like they were going to really rush him back and put him back up to speed right away. But that was really not the case. I mean, he only played 20 minutes, and it was a close game. I mean, it was tied going to the fourth quarter. The Cavs outscored the Jazz by 8, and they obviously win by 8. So I was surprised that they started him, but I guess that's okay because he didn't play his full load. You know, he only played 20 minutes. He didn't play his full 35, 40 minutes like he would normally if he's healthy. So I don't really have an issue with that. I mean, we're talking on Wednesday if we would maybe rest him a little bit more, get him ready for the playoffs. But now you have maybe 15, 16 games left, so you can really get him up to speed for the playoffs. Same thing with J.R. Smith. He's returned a little earlier. You have some new guys to mix in, like Darren Williams, Larry Sanders. He didn't play last night, did Sanders, but you still want to mix him in there because he could help off the bench. So you got to just kind of get everything molded, and that's enough time to get him ready for the postseason. So as I said, the Cavs win 91-83. Kevin Love, 10 points, 9 rebounds in 20 minutes in his return. So a good victory and a good performance there for Kevin Love. Hopefully he can stay healthy. He's definitely had his share with the injury bug. And, I mean, for the Cavs, they're definitely going to need him, even though he kind of disappeared in the finals last year. They're definitely going to need him if they're going to repeat as defending champs. Russell Westbrook, he does it again. I mean, the guy is just absolutely fantastic. 24 points, 16 rebounds, 10 assists. The Thunder win 123-102. And Westbrook, quite honestly, had literally the assist of the season. I mean, you're not going to see an assist any better than what happened last night. He's at midcourt. Overhand bounce pass through a defender's legs. He nutmegs a defender. Goes right to Victor Oladipo to obviously get the bucket. And, I mean, that was absolutely fantastic. Westbrook shot 8 of 17, 4 of 8 from 3, but gets a triple-double. I mean, he's gotten 34 now this season. He's on pace to break Big O, Oscar Robertson's record of 41 in a season. On pace to average a triple-double. And the Thunder really, it's almost like they need him to get a triple-double if they're going to win. Because when Russ gets triple-doubles, they win 82% of the time. When he does not get a triple-double, they win 32% of the time. It's absolutely almost necessary that Russell Westbrook gets a triple-double if the Thunder want to win. Because the stats show that. And I mean, that kind of has to show you how valuable he is, although taking a lot of shots, not shooting a great percentage, especially from 3, but you can't deny his value to the Thunder team. Without him, they'd probably be a 20-win team. And they're at 39 right now. I mean, it's all Russell Westbrook, and that's really it. I mean, he's just absolutely fantastic. Nothing else you can say about him. He's got a triple-double in 4 straight games now, 34 overall. Thunder win 123-102. And then let's go to the Warriors really quickly, and then we'll talk about some other games. Everyone's like, oh, the Warriors are kind of struggling. They had to overcome a deficit, beat the Sixers by 2. Well, I mean, they didn't have any trouble with the Magic last night. They only won by 30. 122-92. The Warriors improved to 54-14. Magic, I'm not sure if it's because they're just a bad team at 24-45, but they got absolutely trounced last night by the Warriors. Steph Curry, he's still struggling from the three-point line. He only shot 2 of 7 last night, but he shot 8 of 15 overall, 25 points, to go along with 9 assists. Klay Thompson had 29 points, Steph had 25 points, sorry. So Klay Thompson, 29 points, 12 of 20 from the floor, 5 of 9 shooting. They played really, really well. I mean, they shot a pretty good percentage at 57%. Magic only shooting 37%. So pretty good defense there for the Golden State Warriors. Draymond Green, 9 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. Still very, very part of this team. The Warriors, 54-14, as I mentioned. They still have more home games than any other team in basketball. I think they'll be okay. I mean, everyone's panicking about them. Like, oh my God, without KD, they're just, oh my God, they're lost. They lost the depth and everything. As long as Durant comes back healthy, they'll be fine come postseason time. So I wouldn't really worry too much about the Golden State Warriors. The Battle of New York, the Nets beat the Knicks yet again, 121-111. That's twice within a week now. Brook Lopez had 24.6 rebounds and 3 assists in the victory for the Nets. Only their 13th of the season. Yes, 13. The Grizzlies beat the Hawks on the road, 103-91. Mike Conley, 24 points and 12 assists in the victory for the Memphis Grizzlies. And the Denver Nuggets defeat the LA Clippers, 129-114. Will Barton, shooting guard, had 35 points, 5 rebounds. And Nikola Jokic did have a triple-double in the game as well. Chris Paul in the loss, 18 points and 14 assists for the Clippers. And you look at the games in the NBA for tonight, we got a lot of them here. It's not just college basketball. We do have NBA to talk. So we're looking at the Mavericks taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. The Bulls will be in Washington, take on the Wizards. The Celtics are in Brooklyn, taking on the Nets. The Raptors will go take on the Pistons. The Rockets will take on Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins, and the rest of the New Orleans Pelicans. The T-Wolves will be in Miami to take on the Heat. The Magic taking on the Phoenix Suns. The Bucks will battle the Lakers as well. Now we're going to take our last break of the show. After the break, we're going to talk about news in basketball. Indiana are in search of a new head coach after firing Tom Crean yesterday. Steve Kerr has some comments about the very outspoken LeVar Ball, and Chicago Bulls forward Dwyane Wade. He's out for the rest of the season. We'll tell you why. All that after the break at the GSMC Basketball Podcast.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Thank you for returning back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. One more segment before we take our break for the weekend. Hope you have a great weekend. Watch a lot of basketball. NCAA tournament. I'm definitely excited for today, tomorrow, and Sunday. I have to find out on Monday who our Sweet 16 teams will be. We'll, of course, preview that and review some of the games from this weekend, as well as the NBA and any other news like the one we have today. Tom Crean at Indiana, he is out after 9 years as the head basketball coach for the Indiana Hoosiers. The school announced that yesterday. The Hoosiers were in the Sweet 16 3 times in 9 seasons under Tom Crean, but in 2 of the last 4 years they have failed to make the NCAA tournament. And I really feel like that is why they're moving on without Tom Crean. He's definitely a really good coach, really, really passionate and aggressive, but there's just no real consistency. Indiana will be great, then they'll be terrible, and then they'll be great the year after, and then they kind of drop off and don't make the tournament. There's just no real consistency, and I think that's really why Tom Crean's gone. So 2 potential replacements are maybe Dayton's Archie Miller and Wichita State's Greg Marshall, which ironically, they're playing each other today, Dayton and Wichita State, the 7-10 matchup in the South. So, although neither of them have been contacted by Indiana, those are 2 potential replacements. And I think really Both those guys would be good. Definitely leading some mid-major programs. It's definitely a step up. Indiana, one of the best college basketball jobs out there. So it would definitely be a little bit of a learning curve. Definitely some high expectations. I mean, Crene had them in the Sweet 16 3 out of the last 9 years, but they obviously let them go. Not necessarily the greatest winning percentage. I mean, it was the second worst among Hoosiers head coaches who have coached 100 games. Crene 166 and 135, a .551 percentage. And that really just goes with the inconsistencies. Great one year, terrible the next year. So I think Tom Crene will get another coaching job somewhere. He's still a really, really good coach, a good recruiter as well. But it's definitely not going to be as high of a coaching job as Indiana was. Crene's still 50. I mean, he's definitely got some age still on the side. I'm sure he'll get somewhere. But Indiana definitely going to be looking for a new college basketball coach after they let go of Tom Crene yesterday. Not in the tournament. Definitely still making some headlines. So Golden State Warriors head coach Steve Kerr. Everyone's talking about LeVar Ball lately. He's definitely outspoken, going on things like SportsCenter, talking about Charles Barkley calling out Michael Jordan on a one-on-one, talking about Charles Barkley eating too many donuts, wanting to maybe have a one-on-one with him. And Steve Kerr doesn't seem like he's the biggest fan of what LeVar Ball is doing. He feels like he's definitely hurting his sons like Lonzo and his brothers with some outlandish remarks made in the last couple of weeks. So he was appearing on Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN 1000, and Kerr was talking about LeVar Ball, and he said the fact that everybody keeps talking about him, he seems to be accomplishing whatever he's trying to accomplish because the things he says are very outlandish, but he keeps getting headlines, and I guess that's what he wants. I don't think it's helping his kids. I think it'd be better for them if they can just play and have fun and not have to hear that every day, but it's just a part of him. And I think Kerr put it really good because Ball is definitely trying to build his family's brand and the company, and the kids don't really need it. I mean, Lonzo, whether or not his dad is talking, is going to be a very good NBA player in my eyes. The other two brothers are not nearly as good as Lonzo. They're okay. I mean, LiAngelo's a senior about to go to UCLA. He's a 3-star recruit, and then you have LaMelo, who is a 5-star recruit, but he definitely needs some coaching because he kind of has free roam to do everything at Chino Hills, which is, I mean, high school. A lot of times with the star players, they have that. So I think Steve Alford at UCLA will definitely try to reel him in a little bit and really transform him into a solid basketball player, not necessarily a YouTube star. So there is some potential there, but they're not nearly as good as Lonzo is. So regardless if LeVar Ball is talking or not, Lonzo is going to have success in the NBA. I really do believe that. But I kind of agree with some of his comments hurting the brothers and his sons ultimately because he's just putting even higher expectations on them. Of course, it's okay to believe in your kids. All parents want to do that. You feel like they're the greatest. But you're kind of just stepping out a little too far, and I think you're drawing on that fine line about what is okay and what's not okay. Calling out legends of the game like Jordan and Barkley, I just don't think that's necessarily the best option. But like Steve Kerr said, he's doing and setting out what he accomplished to do, and that's have us talk about him. That's literally what I'm doing right now. So I guess he's got us all fooled. Like he's obviously winning and doing what needs to be done. So I guess you can't really hate on the guy for that. You have to give him some credit that he's definitely keeping his name out there and wanting the $1 billion shoe deal and everything, and he's definitely got us talking about it, and he's gotten our attention, so he's doing something right. So can't give him much blame for that, but I'm with you, Steve Kerr. I think he needs to just kind of just stay quiet and let his sons do the talking for him in their play on the court. And then real quick, before we end the show today, talking about Dwyane Wade. He is out for the rest of the regular season because an MRI revealed he had a small fracture and a sprain in his right elbow. He bumped into Memphis Grizzlies big man Zach Randolph on Wednesday and was forced to leave the game because of the elbow injury. He's got a small fracture, as I mentioned. He's got some soreness, a little strain there. So he's going to be out for the rest of the regular season, which is kind of a big loss because the Bulls are a game out of the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference right now. They're out of the playoffs. With how Miami's been playing recently, you got to expect them to be really, really in there for the long haul. Detroit's the 8th seed right now. Milwaukee's the 7. And then you have the Bulls, who are a game back of the 8, a game and a half back of the Milwaukee Bucks for the 7 seed. So without Dwyane Wade for the rest of the season, it's going to be really tough. You're going to have to rely a lot on Jimmy Butler as much as you already did. You have to do even more now. Even guys like Rondo. It hasn't really worked out for Dwyane Wade in Chicago. His homecoming hasn't really been the greatest of sorts. Everyone thought the Bulls would be a lot better with Rondo and Butler and Wade, but it hasn't really worked out, and they've kind of been going through some growing pains. And now without Dwyane Wade, although he's definitely aging, his best years are behind him, and the knees aren't necessarily all there, he's still a fabulous player, and he's definitely a Hall of Famer, and a guy you have to really, really lean heavily on if you're going to push towards the playoffs. And they're not in it with him. I don't see how they're going to get in it without him. I really don't. So bad news there for Chicago Bulls and Dwyane Wade. That's going to be it for the show, guys. I'd like to thank you again for listening here at the GSMC Basketball Podcast. We'll take a 48-hour break. We'll be back on Monday. Pauline and I will be debating all things basketball, talking NCAA tournament, talking NBA news and games, and more here at the GSMC Basketball Podcast. Have a good day, have a good weekend, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.